Good morning, guys. So I just want to take a few minutes and let you know how autism impacts me. And I'm profoundly affected by my autism, severely affected by my autism, even though people would say I'm high functioning because I was more of an Asperger's diagnosis. But unfortunately, relationships are very difficult, and therefore getting your sexual needs met is very difficult. And therefore, I struggle with relationships and sexuality as the primary factor is my diagnosis with autism. And yeah, so and unfortunately there's not supports in that area. So, there's a lot of services like cuddle therapy, social skills training, dating coaching, surrogate partner therapy that actually address sex and relationships, that the government doesn't pay for. So the primary issues are being neglected and not covered and not treated. And that's making the whole thing worse. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so profoundly affected by my autism, is because it's not being treated. And so unfortunately secondary issues then become a problem, right? So anxiety is very common with autism. I developed separation anxiety from neurotypical women. I like neurotypical girls my age, and I developed separation anxiety from neurotypical women because the primary issue hasn't been addressed of how to talk to them and how to relate to them and how to build relationships with them. So I developed separation anxiety from neurotypical women. And sex. I developed separation anxiety from sex, yes. And so, therefore, I'm now having panic attacks every day because the government has refused to help pay for sex for autism. For people with autism, the government doesn't pay for sexual supports. So I developed separation anxiety from sex in neurotypical women. And I am struggling to have panic attacks. It gives me headaches. It gives me nausea. I throw up. So I end up at the emergency room almost every day. So therefore, I just wanted to explain to people, the taxpayers need to understand this, is that because we're not treating the primary issue of my autism, the main issue, the sexuality issue, we're not treating that issue. We're having secondary issues of anxiety, panic attacks, depression, all the above. So the government, literally the past 2 days, I've went to the emergency room 2 days in a row with panic attacks, and the government has spent $10,000 just like that in an hour at the emergency room, just because they don't want to pay for sex or sexuality help or sexuality education. And so the government spends a lot of money very quickly on secondary issues without addressing the primary issue of the autism spectrum disorder. And so I'm very profoundly and severely affected by my autism because the state of Indiana actually ignores the main issue of my autism. So, the state's going to continue to if I go to the emergency room every day for a panic attack, that's $10,000 a day, guys. That's 365 days a year, $3,650,000 just like that in a year spent on secondary issues instead of being money spent on primary issues. So I just want people to understand this and understand autism better. They need to understand that you have to actually treat the autism in order to actually get anywhere. And if they don't understand that you have to treat the autism, then they're going to spend a lot of money treating secondary issues that, aren't necessary to treat, because you could actually treat them if you treated the autism. So there's a lot of understanding needed to be gained about autism. There's a lot that the government doesn't understand. The government's very naive with autism. The government's very ignorant with autism. They're very ableistic. And they don't understand people with autism have sexual needs and sexual desires. And that's going to end up costing them a lot of money. It's going to cost them a fortune. So, and it's going to cost you, the taxpayer, a fortune as well, to ignore sexual needs of autistic people. So I just want you to be aware of that, and to be, and the reason why this is true is because Peter Gerhardt, a great behavior analyst out of New Jersey, New York, context is king, right? So if the issue is sex and you try and treat it with going grocery shopping, that's not going to work very well. So context is king. You have to actually provide sex. Sex is the only acceptable treatment for my autism because context is king. Peter Gerhardt taught me that. So sex is the only acceptable treatment for my autism. And without sex, you will never get anywhere treating my autism. So I just wanted to share that. And I hope you guys have a great day and take care of yourselves.